For 4 months, valuable FD.
What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home? A very good evening to and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
IMF report tabled in Parliament. President says difficulties and reforms can be discussed at the 6-month review with the IMF.
අප මේ මාර්ගයෙන් ඉවත් වුණොත් පසුගිය අප්‍රේල් මාසයේ තිබුණ තැනටත් වඩා අන්ත අයහපත් තත්ත්වයකට මුළු රටම ඇද වැටෙනවා.
Harsher questions missing documents and letter of consent. Basil Rajapaksa recommended bringing in Ranil Wickremesinghe, says State Minister Indika Anuruddha.
මේ ඉතිරි ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය ඉස්සරහට කරන් යන්න ඕන නම් කරන්න පුළුවන් එකම මිනිහා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමයි කියන නිර්දේශ දුන්නේ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා තමයි.
Sri Lankan rupee appreciates against US dollar. Gold prices also drop. Protest to counter the protest by teachers.
Starting off with news here at home, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe told Parliament that it is not possible to distance from the policies that have been implemented. Tabling the IMF agreement in Parliament, the President said the program will be reviewed by the IMF every 6 months.
We are at a difficult period of time. However, our difficulties and hardships will be short-lived. We can reap the benefits of the commitments and toil within a short period of time. We have to make these sacrifices for the young people of the country, the future generation who are to inherit this nation tomorrow. If we implement the economic reforms with proper financial discipline throughout the next 4 years, in accordance with this agreement, a strong economic foundation will emerge for the future of the country. If we deviate from this path, the entire country will find itself in a worse situation in April than it was some time back.
The President highlighted the future plans and targets in his statement to Parliament. Reduce the primary deficit to 2.3% of the GDP by 2025. Increase the government's revenue up to 15% of the GDP by 2026 through reduce the existing tax exemptions on value-added tax and remove the simplified VAT system and expedite its reimbursement. Introduce tax on awards, substitutes and to introduce estate duty as a property tax by 2025. Introduce a gift and inheritance tax. Increase the allocations provided to cover the expenses through proper management of expenditure. Adjustments in certain salary scales and pension schemes as part of the impact of inflation within the primary deficit targets. Bring back inflation rate to a single digit by mid-2023. Gradually refrain from printing money and reduce the budget deficit by a significant amount, utilizing various market instruments for this purpose. Allowing activities of the forex market to be determined on market criterions and existing thresholds and guidelines of the market to be relaxed. Central Bank to purchase foreign currency to build the foreign reserves according to the set targets.
The determination of fuel prices will be bereft of politicization. Fuel prices will be determined based on the 2018 price formula. Measures will also be taken to adjust the tariff on electricity every 6 months to cover the cost after considering the estimated future cost. Key loss-making state ventures of the balance sheet, namely the Road Development Authority, Sri Lankan Airlines, Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Ceylon Electricity Board will be restructured. Measures will also be taken to exchange the foreign loans obtained on overdue sovereign guarantees mentioned in the balance sheet of the state-owned enterprises as payable debt of the government of Sri Lanka.
The President also presented proposals with regard to good governance. The IMF is engaged in the process of preparing a governance assessment report in consultation with local experts. This would allow identifying the loopholes that exist in the framework of Sri Lankan administration and the institutions that combat corruption. Laws will be drafted against corruption in line with UN conventions. It is also expected to include the provisions with regard to acquisition of assets to the legislative framework by March 2024. New Public Finance Management Bill. Individuals who had obtained permits to import vehicles on concessionary tax basis, along with the institutions that enjoy tax concessions, tax holidays of the Board of Investment, will be made public. Large-scale government procurement contracts will also be made public.
Concurrently, talks with our bilateral creditors will begin. We will continue our discussions with them in an open and transparent manner using the same methods we have used in the past. Before making final decisions on loan repayment terms, we use an open system that informs all bilateral creditors. The same procedure is followed by other foreign creditors. We hope to carry out the restructuring in a way that is fair to all creditors.
අනිකුත් විදේශීය ණය හිමියන් සම්බන්ධයෙන්ද අනුගමනය කරන්නේ ඒ පිළිවෙතයි. එෙහිදී සියලු ණය හිමියන්ට සාධාරණ වන අයුරින් ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීම සිදු කිරීම අපේ බලාපොරොත්තුවයි.
The President also commented on the taxes.
අපි මේ ගෙවමින් සිටින්නේ දුෂ්කර කාලයක්. බදුබර නිසා සමාජයේ යම් කොට
We are currently going through a difficult period. We are well aware that a certain section of society is facing immense hardships due to the tax burden. We also know the entire society is suffering due to inflation. However, we cannot distance ourselves from the policies that have been implemented at this crucial juncture. The government and the IMF will review the program every 6 months. The first review will take place in June. We have already focused our attention on amending the existing tax mechanism. The Treasury is already in the process of preparing amended proposals. Further, intellectuals and economic experts have already submitted their views in this regard, which we hope to discuss and reach an agreement. We are discussing with the IMF to include these tax reforms in our plans at the review in June. In addition, we are discussing other policy reforms which we think are necessary at present. Some people try to portray that these issues can be solved through beliefs and confrontations. However, these problems have to be solved through caution, care and wisdom.
කාලීනව අවශ්‍ය වෙනත් ප්‍රතිපත්තිම සංශෝධනය ගැනත් අප සාකච්ඡා කරනවා. මේවා හැඟීම් වලින් අරගල වලින් විසඳා ගන්නට පුළුවන් දේවල් නෙවෙයි. මේ ගැටලු විසඳාගත යුත්තේ සීරුවෙන් සැලකිල්ලෙන් හා බුද්ධියෙන්.
The President once again extended an open invitation to the opposition.
මේක අසීරු ගමන. අපි මේ අසීරු ගමන සීරුවෙන් යමු. අපේ මූලික ඉලක්කය
This difficult journey should be made with care. Our primary goal should be built in the country. Firstly, secondly and thirdly, our sole target should be to build the country. The IMF approved plan should be implemented and completed in 4 years. However, depending on our strength and determination, we should be able to finish it in 3 to 3.5 years. We can't keep borrowing money all the time. We should strive to be a debt-free country. We must pay off all our previous debts over the next 10 years. I am confident that if we stay on the right track, we will be able to achieve that goal. When I became the Prime Minister, I wasted no time in requesting the opposition's support towards the effort of rebuilding the economy of the country. However, I did not receive that support. Subsequently, at the occasion of opening of Parliament as the President, I once again requested their support, but it was to no avail. During the budget debate too, I requested the same of the opposition, but they did not come forward. Yet again, at the occasion of the opening of this Parliament session, I sought their support, but that request too frittered away. They refused to extend their support, citing various reasons. They said that my appointment was unconstitutional. They opined that prime ministers cannot be appointed from the national list. They even went to the extent of saying that my ambition was not to salvage the country from the economic crisis, but to save the Rajapaksas. They said that it was not Sri Lanka that I was trying to take across the obstacle course, but Namal Rajapaksa. However, now the international community has endorsed that I strove to construct the Sri Lankan economy. It has now been proved beyond doubt that accusations of the opposition are baseless. I do not intend to respond to these unfounded accusations. My task is not to criticize the past. My task is to build the future of the country. Even today, I request the opposition to join this effort of building the country.
ඉල්ලා සිටින්නේ දැන්වත් මේ රට ගොඩනැංවීමේ ව්‍යායාමයට එක් වෙන්න කියලා.
ගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කරපු කතාව පිළිබඳව පුළුල් පාර්ලිමේන්තු විවාදයකට අවස්ථාව ලබා දෙන්න. අද ඉඳලා වුණත් විවාදයට සූදානම් ආණ්ඩුවක්.
I can only speak with the creditors, both bilateral creditors, multilateral creditors and the private bondholders if the parliament is prepared to accept the IMF report. So I urge this house to accept the report. If you have any issues, you can talk it over with the IMF when they come back. That's all I am asking. I am not getting into a debate. This is the request that I have made.
Honourable Speaker, I think the Honourable President should understand you have presented the report and you have made a presentation in Parliament. Just because you present a statement and a report in Parliament, we cannot agree without proper examination and scrutiny and proper parliamentary debate. So what we are proposing is, let's go ahead with the debate, and I would very humbly request Honourable President to remain in Parliament and listen to the progressive and constructive proposals that we have, take cognizance of it, and then at the end of the day we can agree on things that we can agree, and we part ways on issues we cannot agree. It's simple as that. It's called practical politics. It's called pragmatism. Let's do that. We are not willing, just because the President makes a statement, to approve anything willy-nilly without proper scrutiny and examination.
The cabinet had recently decided on the divestment of shares of Sri Lanka Telecom and Lanka Hospitals PLC.
ස්පිටල් එකේ කොටසුයි විකුණන්න. මීට කලින් කිව්වේ පාඩු පොඩ අහගෙන ඉන්නකෝ. ඕගොල්ලන්ට මේ IMF එකෙන් ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් එකක් ගහුවම නිකන්.
If the IMF was aware that such a group was in this house, they would never have approved a cent.
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි, කරුණාකරලා මගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ අහන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න. ගරු කතානායකතුමනි, කපුටු කාක්කා කියලා තමයි අපිට කියන්න වෙන්නේ.
Earlier you said loss-making entities will be sold. Why are you trying to sell off the profit-making ones?
වැදගත් දෙයක් කිව්වා අපි අනාගතය ගැන හිතන්න ඕනේ කියලා අතීතය ගැන හිතන්නේ නැතුව. හැබැයි එක කරුණක් තියෙනවා.
You said we need to look at the future and not the past, but I must say this, we cannot make the same mistakes. We need to nab the rogues of the past. We must look back at the past.
ඉතින් අතීතය දිහා බලන්න ඕනෙමයි කියන එක මම මෙතන ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න ඕනේ.
දැන් අපි කෙටුම් පතක් ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. ඒක එක්සත් ජාතීන්ගේ
The document has been presented. You discuss and see if it is in line with the UN Convention. You can discuss the amendments.
ඒවත් පිළි අරගන්න.
The following comments were made after the debate on the President's statement commenced in Parliament.
This is not a dictatorship, this is a democracy. We will support what is right. We have carried out the duty of the opposition to the best that we can. It was the vistas of prosperity and splendor that suspended to the path to the IMF. It was the Gotabaya Rajapaksa's administration. All those who were with the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna must be held responsible for this. The President now says the opposition must work together. How can he even make such a statement? He needs Dr. Harsha's help for the IMF deal. However, Dr. Harsha is now considered unsuitable for the post of chairman of the Finance Committee. The wolves on that side told us to accept the IMF program and come for talks. However, I am glad to see that the wolves have surrendered to the policy of Ranil Wickremesinghe, who came in sheep's clothing. If you can rejoice this deal by lighting firecrackers, why not call for an election? If the 2.9 billion is dispersed in 8 tranches, why can't you set aside 0.068% of that for the election in 2023? If you don't want a local government election, call for a general election. Are you afraid of that as well? We are not afraid. We are even ready for a presidential election.
කැමති නැත්තම් තියන්න පමණ මහමැතිවරණය. ඇයි බයද? අපි බය නැහැ. අපි සූදානම්. ජනාධිපතිවරණයට සූදානම්. අපි ඒවට සූදානම්. ඒ ගැන බය වෙන්න එපා.
මේ දැන් කියන පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයක් හරි.
Now you are saying that if not local government, go for parliamentary or presidential election. These elections are held to gain power. This power was once offered to you in a platter. Why didn't you accept it then?
ඇයි ගත්තේ නැත්තේ?
ඒ උදව් කරන්න සූදානම් කියලා එක පැත්තකින්.
When we are ready to support, the wolves with him on that side won't allow that. Just because you get the board approval for the staff level agreement, it does not mean that all issues are solved. The President has produced the letter of intent. The central bank governor and the finance minister must be signatories to the letter of intent. One of the 3 documents is the 155-page booklet. The other is the open letter to the official Sri Lankan creditors. And the last one is for the special authorization of foreign loans. But there is no letter of intent. You have not tabled the most important document. Did you forget about it? We request the President to table the letter of intent. If not, there is no use of this debate.
වැදගත්ම දේ ටේබල් කළා නෑනේ. අමතක වුණාද දන්නේ නෑ. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලනවා letter of intent එක ටේබල් කරන්න. ඒක නැතුව මේ විවාදනුත් වැඩක් නෑ.
මම ඔට්ටු දාලා කියනවා. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයා එනම් ඡන්දෙත් තියලා ආණ්ඩුවක් ගන්න කියන්නේ අර ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාට
I challenge Sajith Premadasa to call for an election to form a government. You will experience Gotabaya Rajapaksa Part 2. That government will not last even a year because you will have to make promises to the trade unions on certain matters. As soon as you make those promises and form a government, you cannot operate. If Sajith Premadasa is wise and if I was in his position, I would get these reforms in order irrespective of who leads it. This is how you can control the country. You don't understand this because of your arrogance. I will tell you about the challenges that Ranil Wickremesinghe has passed. Fertilizer crisis, pass. Fuel crisis, pass. Electricity crisis, pass. IMF, pass. We were heading to an era where people will be in line for food due to a famine. He passed that too. Rupee crisis, pass. When he took over, inflation was high. I wonder if Dr. Harsha De Silva had forgotten that. Nationalism, pass. He did not side with the racist. Let's take a look at the opposition leader. He cannot keep a party together. He failed. He cannot keep an alliance together. He failed. He can never topple the government. He failed. He could have toppled the government easily during the crisis. So let's go for an election after we conclude the IMF deal and bring stability to the country.
එක්සත්ව තියාගන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒකෙන් ෆේල්. රටේ ප්‍රධානම පක්ෂේ වීමෙන් එතුමා ෆේල්. ආණ්ඩුවක් පෙරලීම එතුමාට කවදාවත් කරන්න බෑ. එතුමා ඒකෙනුත් ෆේල්. මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබ්බ වෙලාවක ආණ්ඩුවක් ඉලේසියෙන් පෙරලා ගන්න තිබ්බ මිනිස්සෙක් අපි ඡන්දයක් තියමු. IMF එක කරලා මේ කටයුතු ටික අවසන් කරලා මේ රටේ හරි ස්ථාවරත්වයක් අරගෙන මේ රටේ අනිවාර්යෙන් ඒ කටයුතු කරමු.
State Minister Indika Anuruddha commended the efforts made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe during a media briefing convened by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. He told reporters that it was Basil Rajapaksa who recommended that Wickremesinghe be handed over the task of taking the IMF program forward.
අද ජාත්‍යන්තරයේ පිළි අරගෙන තියෙනවා රටට.
The international community has accepted that they need to help Sri Lanka, and through that the country will achieve sustainable development. We need to be thankful to the president.
ජාත්‍යන්තරයේ පිළි අරගෙන තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා විශේෂයෙන් අපි ජනාධිපතිතුමාට ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙන්න ඕන.
ඒ කියන්නේ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාගේ යෝජනාවක් මතද මේ IMF යන්න එහෙම ජනාධිපතිවරයා එහෙම
The initial step was taken during the Gotabaya Rajapaksa administration. We had a few people in the Vietmaga who were dragging the president's feet. Today they are on another side. It was Basil Rajapaksa who in fact made the recommendation that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the only person who can take the program forward.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමයි කියන නිර්දේශ දුන්නේ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා තමයි.
ඒ කියන්නේ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ වර්තමාන ජනාධිපතිතුමා පත් කරන්න යෝජනා කරේ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාද?
පැහැදිලිව.
ඔබතුමා කියන විදිහට ඒ කියන්නේ මේ සියලු කාරණා පිටිපස්සේ හිටපු ශක්තිය බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාද?
පැහැදිලිව.
The IMF Executive Board's decision to approve an extended fund facility to Sri Lanka marked an important milestone in our journey towards stability and sustainable economic recovery. How will key aspects of our economy be impacted by this decision?
The exchange rate.
In recent weeks, Sri Lanka witnessed a marginal appreciation of the rupee against the US dollar. However, it began depreciating once more shortly after. How will the rupee perform as the IMF program takes effect?
It really depends on how the inflows and outflows on the dollar side are impacted by the IMF side. So on the direct capital inflows and outflows, it's really about sentiment, right? How improved is sentiment going to be? On the other hand, how soon do we have to make some of those payments back? And that also ties into the question on trade, because the trade flows resuming, or especially the import trade flows resuming, will really depend on how soon the demand in the economy recovers. That's really the main thing that has kept the currency controlled, that is the main thing that has kept the currency pressures contained. So, I mean, yes, there are currency controls, yes, there are capital controls, there are some import controls, but it's primarily that demand question. The sooner the demand recovers, the quicker the currency can, depreciate further, or on the other hand, or on the other side, the longer the demand stays compressed, the longer the currency can be strong.
Debt restructuring.
Sri Lanka was granted external debt restructuring assurances from its major creditors including China, India and the Paris Club. Now Sri Lanka must present a debt restructuring strategy to the IMF by the end of April. How can Sri Lanka compile an effective debt restructuring strategy? Will domestic debt also be restructured?
The debt restructuring has to happen along with the negotiation of all creditors, and we have to provide pretty much the equal treatment depending on the negotiations, and we have to make sure that we get a debt relief which is enough for us to come back and actively reactivate our economy. At the same time, we have to make sure that we get an enough debt relief, and we will not going back for another debt restructuring program. That are the two main conditions that we have to consider. Secondly, in terms of domestic debt restructuring, I am not endorsing it, but it looks like it is coming on our way. Even in the IMF report, they have mentioned about recapitalizing the banks and stabilizing the banking and the financial system. So any domestic debt restructuring has to be assured with the stability to our banking system.
Tax revenue.
IMF officials emphasize the importance of tax revenue growth in a manner that is friendly to economic growth while also protecting the poor and vulnerable. How can Sri Lanka achieve this?
In terms of our tax revenue, my main consideration would be the tax competitiveness, because we have to ensure that our tax regime is competitive with our regional players, because that's how we can even compete with the tax regime. So that would be my main consideration. That will allow more investors and more capital to flow in for Sri Lanka and economic activity to move forward.
More news coming your way after this commercial break. Stay tuned.
News First. Main sponsor. 23% for 2 months, 25% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
නියම කාට
23% for 2 months, 25% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
Still in local news, university students, including convener of the Inter-University Students Federation, Wasantha Mudalige, visited the University Grants Commission for talks.
This was a situation close to the University Grants Commission when student activists visited the premises to discuss the student issues at the Sabaragama University. Water cannon trucks and riot police were deployed in the area. The discussion with the vice chairman of the commission concluded without a solution being reached.
After we came for a discussion with the chairman of the University Grants Commission, we saw that we were surrounded by the riot squad, the police and water cannon trucks. If we are the university students of this country, if we have the right to democracy, if we have the right to speak, then why are we trapped in here?
University teachers attached to the Sri Jayawardhanapura University protested against the government's tax regime. The protest was staged opposite the Sri Jayawardhanapura University premises. The university teachers emphasized that no decision has been reached regarding the suspension of the strike action, even though they have decided to get involved with the examination-related activities.
University students are present at the premises. We understand the need to continue operations at the university. However, the government is depriving us of that opportunity and are forcing the professionals to take to the streets. Instead of blaming the university lecturers, suspend the program and come for talks. We demand a reasonable tax regime that can be accepted by university teachers.
The employees of the National Water Supply and Drainage Board have planned to launch a strike again on Thursday as their demands were not solved.
A demonstration was held opposite the Fort Railway Station today, opposing the government's decision on annual and 10-year transfer of teachers attached to national schools. The protest was jointly carried out by the Ceylon Teachers Union, Ceylon Teachers Services Union and several other related trade unions.
We must clearly state that all transfers were conducted in an organized manner with the cooperation of teacher transfer officers and education officials. All that was left was for transfer letters to be issued, but President Wickremesinghe intervened and stopped it, leading to a creation of a dispute. In 2017, 12,000 were transferred seamlessly. We want transfer committees to be reconvened and the transfer process to be reinitiated. Ranil Wickremesinghe has made this arbitrary decision while also ordering for transfer committees to be dissolved. That is why teachers are on the streets today. All transfers recommended by the transfer committee over 6 months must be done. Why would you need ministers when the president is acting in such an ad hoc manner?
Two other groups protested on either side of the location where teachers were in protest, opposing it. Police prevented an attempt by one of the groups to march past the area where the teachers' protest was being held.
Joseph Stalin, who lives off the money given to him by NGOs from countries like the US, has poisoned the minds of teachers. They are trying to create an uneducated future generation and ruin their futures.
The other group protesting against the teachers' protest claimed that they were an independent group.
Look at those teachers protesting for their wages by blocking the road. It is fair to do so. They are demanding it because it is their means of survival. But we pay them extra for tuition. Children study for free in the morning and pay for tuition in the evening. That is why we organize this, because we are not anyone's henchmen. We are independent people who fought against corruption in the Kolonnava region. We always work for the children. If someone paid you to come here today, use it to have a nice meal. We don't despise you, regardless of what you say against us. Let us get together and carry out the next Aragalaya.
The Anuradhapura District Greater Irrigation Joint Agrarian Movement convened a media briefing.
No matter what the government and the state officials state, the paddy purchasing program is a failure. We reap around 60 to 80% of bushels per acre. However, the government is only purchasing 1% of that. The government and the ministers are making statements to the media of a successful harvest for the Maha season and of a successful paddy purchasing program. I challenge the government and ministers to reveal the truth over this matter. Right now, the funeral of the farming community is taking place. When we reach the Yala season, the farmers will give up agriculture. Our discussions were futile. We will inform this to all farmers in Anuradhapura district and launch a massive protest campaign.
MP Dayasiri Jayasekara reassumed duties as the General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
Sri Lanka Freedom Party Chairman Maithripala Sirisena held talks with General Secretary Dayasiri Jayasekara and several SLFP members at the party headquarters in Colombo. Sarath Ekanaika served as the acting General Secretary of the SLFP in recent days as MP Jayasekara was overseas.
ඉතින් එයා ඉතින් වැඩ කරන එක ඉතින් සාමාන්‍ය දෙයක් ඒක විශේෂයක් නෑ ඒක කිව්වා. එතකොට අයින් කරලා තිබුණේ නෑ නේ. කවුද කියන්නේ එහෙම? දැන් විවිධ මත සමාජ මතයක් සමාජ මත හදන්නේ කවුද? වැරදි සමාජ මත. හොඳ ඒවා ටිකක් කරලා වැරදි මත ගොඩක් හදන්නේ කවුද? ඒක ඔයාලගේ හෘද සාක්ෂියෙන්ම අහගන්න ඕනේ දෙයක්. වැඩ බලන්න මේකම කරයා. හරියට කොහොමද යාගේ වැඩේ කරලා දුන්නා.
The United States is partnering with Sri Lanka to improve water management.
The United States is partnering with Sri Lanka to improve water management to support communities that are facing challenges in accessing clean drinking water.
It seems a little bit ironic to talk about water conservation in a country where you do get an annual benefit about 2,000 millimeters of rainfall. But the reality is that this generous gift from nature doesn't benefit all Sri Lankans as much as it could, with less than half of rural Sri Lankans having access to piped water. And that's why I'm so proud that the United States is partnering with Sri Lanka to improve water management. This work builds on an amazing history in Sri Lanka, including complex ancient waterworks dating back to 300 BC.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chang joined Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and Minister Jeevan Thondaman in celebrating World Water Day in Colombo.
The bodies of 3 young men who were reported missing after going for a swim in the Ella Falls in Vallavaya were recovered this morning by Sri Lankan Navy divers.
A group of 10 young men from Kalmune on an excursion had decided to go for a swim at the Ella Falls in Vallavaya on Tuesday. Sri Lanka police said that one of the men drowned and 3 others attempted to rescue him. However, they were swept away by strong currents. The body of one of the missing men was recovered on Tuesday evening. Despite the inclement weather conditions, the local police and villagers launched a search and rescue operation to locate the 3 other missing. However, their efforts were futile. On Wednesday, Sri Lankan Navy divers launched a search and recovered the bodies of the 3 men inside a 13 feet deep hole. The deceased were identified as 20 and 21-year-old men from Kalmunakudi, Samanture and Saindamarudu. Drowning incidents were reported from the Ella Falls in Vallavaya in the recent past, and the most recent was reported in February 2022, where 3 lives were lost.
Up next is Biz First.
The Sri Lanka rupee has been appreciating against the US dollar since the 16th of March. According to the data disclosed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the selling price of a US dollar was 330 rupees and 16 cents. The buying rate of the US dollar was 312 rupees and 31 cents. In February, the US dollar was positioned at 361 rupees. As the Sri Lankan rupee appreciated, gold prices have also dropped. The price of a 22-carat gold pound at the gold market in Chetty Street, Colombo, was 151,800 rupees. On Tuesday, the 21st, the rate was 162,000 rupees. The price of a 24-carat gold pound, which was priced at 175,000 rupees on Tuesday, the 21st, dropped to 165,000 rupees today.
Another phase of the LOLC Divi Savya program, a community upliftment initiative aiming to empower our own citizens, took place centering the Kandy district. Today's program was there.
Exercise books and other stationery are distributed among school children from economically challenged families under the Divi Savya program. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. School books and stationery were distributed to students of the Navaneliya Primary School and the Deltota Baulana Tamil Vidyalaya in the Kandy Education Zone. The students of the Deltota Baulana Tamil Vidyalaya in the Kandy Education Zone received school books and stationery by a team from LOLC Divi Savya. Earlier in the day, school books and stationery were distributed among students of the St. Mary's Tamil School in Ampitiya and Aruppala Dharmasoka Vidyalaya. Meanwhile, students of the Ralimangoda Al Akbar Muslim College in the Lower Heva Hatta Education Zone were also gifted with school equipment under the Divi Savya initiative. In addition, LOLC Divi Savya also distributed school books and stationery to the students of the Naranhinna Tamil Vidyalaya in Deltota, Galaha.
Award-winning actress Yashoda Vimaladharma was unveiled as the brand ambassador for Surya, a subsidiary of Sun Match Company.
Founded by T.R.R. Rajan 40 years ago, Sun Match Company is famous across the island for its safety wax matches. In the future, Surya branded incense sticks, naphthalene and related products will be issued to the local market.
The first event of the Red Amazons adventure commenced this morning.
You might be familiar with the Greek myth, or you might have watched the superhero movie Wonder Woman, which means you might be familiar with the concept of the Amazons. warrior women of old who bested their male counterparts in the field of battle. And that is where this idea comes from, that gave birth to this international competition, Raid Amazons. And this year's chapter, Raid Amazons 2023, is taking place here in Sri Lanka. It is determined to find the best women, the warrior women of today, in a multifaceted competition that tests their agility, their strength and their willpower.
The 12-kilometer trail run along Pico Trail commenced from Hanthana, Kandy. For the first 5 kilometers of the trail run, the athletes had to climb uphill. The athletes raced through the tea plantations across the scenic backdrop of the hill country.
It's beautiful, landscapes are wonderful, we have met people, children.
The teams concluded the trail run near the Ganadevi Kovil in Galaha amidst cheers from other team members as well as local area residents.
First day was very great. People are very friendly with us. It was very nice.
Many children were also gathered at the event to welcome the athletes. The welcoming nature of Sri Lankans and the beautiful landscape of Kandy was highlighted by many athletes at Wednesday's event.
Yes, it's amazing. It's a beautiful day. All the people are very nice, so we are very happy to be here.
We could discover the landscape, the Sri Lanka landscape. It was a great experience for both of us. We've never been in Asia before, so first time, and it's a great first time.
After the run, the athletes were seen celebrating the conclusion of today's event.
Another day of epic tests come to an end, but the trials are yet to continue. Stay tuned to Newsfirst as we bring you more of the very latest from the Raid Amazons 2023 happening here in Sri Lanka in the hills of Kandy. I'm Disal Kapuge reporting for Newsfirst.
On Thursday, the athletes will go to the Victoria Dam in Kandy for canoeing.
And with that, wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining. Do take care and good night.